And Richa, we have a daddy amongst us.
Okay.
Okay, who, just to let you know, this daddy was born to move. He never sits in one place. Okay, he's full of energy, and so full of energy that every evening he will create a little story for his son, who he's a chip of the old block, also full of energy, right? So, Richa, would you mind talking to this born to move daddy for a minute?
Yes,
Yeah? Okay. You love to? Yeah, I think you should. I think you should. Great fun. And, he always has whenever I ask him to take the spotlight, he has the audacity to tell me with my shock of hair that I am having a bad hair day, don't call me. So I said, in front of me, nobody else can have a bad hair day. I'm born with a bad hair day. Yeah? So, this dad is right here. Yes, Arun? who creates stories for his little ones, right? So, I think you wanted to ask Richa a question. Yes? And she also will ask you a question.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, start off.
I have many questions. And because I've read, of course, she's the one who's going to be speaking, because I've read Giggy and Daddy, and I'll be very honest with you, I read it today.
Okay.
And the third page, first line, made me cry.
Yes? Okay. Okay.
And,
then I think I've...
You understand from where I'm coming at?
Moment then. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it because the whole book was, I closed it again and I'm still sort of not ready.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah, but I closed the book again, then I opened it again, and then I wanted to read it again just to sort
Do you
of...
see yourself there?
I see myself and I see a lot of dads,
Okay.
Okay. Because...
Yeah. It's okay to get emotional.
Because we as men, I think, are very guarded with our emotions, and this has actually touched me, and of course will touch a lot of parents, and I'm sure a lot of people here are going to second my opinion once you read it, and I think from the horse's mouth, not literally, but the first question I wanted to ask you was, what was your inspiration to, first part of the question is to do what you're doing,
Okay.
and to write this story.
All right. I think the answer to both questions are pretty much the same. I love observing children, which starts from my own children. My children now are much older. I'm 21.
I'm going to have a little. Why don't you sit down? Make you comfortable. Come on.
Okay, come sit.
Come on. I know you. Sit here.
Okay.
Yeah,
better.
that makes
Okay.
it better. Yeah.
So my children now are, 21 and 17, so they're grown up. But I remember following their growing up journeys very keenly, and the kind of interactions they would have with their children, right? And something told me that there was so much to be explored there, and there were so many experiences that just were waiting to be presented in the form of books. Because I feel we may be different sets of parents here, but at the core we are all very much alike in terms of what we want for our children, not from our children, but what we want for our children. And I think that is how I started, right? This particular book is, I think I've sort of cheated, because the entire inspiration has come from my husband and my daughter. When she was maybe this age, all I would hear the two of them kusur all the time, and my daughter would then run back to me with all kinds of crazy stories that she would hear from her dad. Okay, and I would say, okay, when did this happen? And she says, no, but daddy's saying this happened. And she would be so convinced at the end of it, the way my husband would sort of narrate those stories, and they were all tall tales, right? They were just the craziest of stories that you can think of. But that's where the imagination kicks in. And if you're sitting with your child and you're just running riot with your imagination, it's magical. And that's something that your child will remember all her life, all his life, right? So a lot of what you see, like the fact about Daddy saying that you jumped out of my pocket. My husband, even now he says it to his 17-year-old, right? You jumped out of my pocket, you know? I'm right there. So it's like that. So a lot of that comes from there. A lot of my books are based, not based, but the ideas, the triggers have been, again, in children that I see, my own children, and some of it is imagined at the end of it, but it starts from a trigger somewhere which is very, very real.
Nice. And yeah, I mean, that answers both of my questions.
Yes.
And should we just, yeah, we can, if you could just read this for the audience.
Right. Okay.
And for people who haven't read it,
Okay.
I'm sure they'll enjoy
This
it.
book is called Giggy and Daddy. It's been written by me and illustrated so fabulously. I mean, if you look at the illustrations, you'll see they are just so endearing. You know, they'll make you want to just get up and cuddle your own child in that very moment when you're picking up this book. So it's been illustrated by Mithila Anand. She's in Bangalore. We haven't met. We've done 2 books together and we are yet to meet. So this book, as I said, it comes from that. In fact, I have dedicated it to for the girl and the man and the million tall tales. So to my husband and my daughter, right? And she's dedicated to her mother, which she said she grew up listening to a lot of stories from her amma. So it's by her. Okay, so so what I'll do is I won't read out the entire story, of course. I mean, I will, but not verbatim. And but I'll also tell you the lovely things about the illustrations, because it's a picture book. So you know, the entire experience of going through a picture book is complete when you're doing both together. So there's a story my daddy tells me every day. It's about a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a whole lot of everything. This is how it goes. One day, when my daddy was not even a daddy, he woke up singing and dancing and flying and said, I'm going to be a daddy, yahoo! Okay, so that's the father doing all his cartwheels and somersaults or whatever, yahoo, all excited, right? And daddies need to learn many, many things, okay? This is where I usually stop and I ask the children, okay, do you think your daddies ever went to school to learn how to be a good daddy, a fun daddy? Yes? Do you think your mother or your father, your daddy or your mommy ever went to school to learn to become a parent? Yes? They did? Okay, so you have to tell me what fun things they would have learned at school to become a daddy or mommy.
I think
Yes?
they will learn to become a mommy and daddy.
Okay, so let's see what all, okay, fine, thank you so much. That is pretty much what daddy thought, right? And daddies need to learn many, many things. So the girl says, and mommies too? Daddy says, shh, this is my story. And this is my story and this is your story. There's no way we are letting mommy come into our story, all right? So the girl says, okay. So he tells me about how off he went to a place that taught him the ABC of daddyhood. So you see, there's a super cool school for daddies, right? And when you see, if you peep into through the window of that school, you'll see all kinds of parents, all kinds of fathers getting ready to become daddies, right? So today when you'll get back home and if your daddies are not sitting with you right here, please go and ask them if they had to go to a school like this, okay? Right. So Giggy asks, did you cry on your first day of school? Okay. And daddy says, cry? Me? I'm the coolest. Well, obviously, all daddies are the coolest, right? So no way, I never cried. Soon he was learning the little daddy things and the big daddy things. The more he learned, the more he knew he was ready to be the greatest daddy in the whole wide world. Okay? Yes, that's what he says. And you can see mommy sitting up, perched up on the tree, and she's clicking photographs of daddy learning how to become a daddy. Okay? Mommy on a camera, can you see? Right. Do you think the photographs will go up on Instagram? Yeah? And then daddy walks out with this huge trophy which says Super Dad #1 or something like that. And he has all sorts of medals there. Right? Okay, and then came his real daddy moment, because now he's back from the school and he's ready to become a daddy. Okay? Then came his real daddy moment. This was before I was born. He says, I began to grow big inside his pocket. Okay, can you see the illustration here? Right? Can you see this little thing? She's not even born yet, and she's inside the man's pocket. Okay? Do you think if your daddy told you this story, you'd believe it? No, right? Do you think Giggy is believing these stories? No way, right? Giggy is a smart girl. She knows better. But daddy is going on with the stories, and Giggy says, okay, carry on, carry on, carry on. Let's see how far you can go, daddy. Okay? So all kinds of things. I'm not going to go page by page for this. But remember, I told you Giggy is a smart girl, right? So she also knows what actually happened. So when you read the book, you will see there are some things which are drawn on the corners, which are things that her mommy has told her. So there are stories that Giggy's mommy has told her, and there are stories that Giggy's daddy has been telling her. And when you read it, you'll see the difference between the two. Okay? And then came the moment when she was ready to pop out, jump out of the pocket. Okay? So daddy says, this is how you were born. And Giggy says, hello, my mommy said I came out, I tumbled out of the tummy. There's no way I'm going to believe this. And daddy says, shh, this is my story and this is your story. There is no way we are going to let the mommy story come in. Okay? So that's what happens. And then he says, so I let daddy tell him his story of how I grew bigger. And you see what's here? Can you see what's happening on this page? There's this dad with 6 hands, or maybe more. Yes, tell me.
When he has 6 hands, in one hand he has a picture of Giggy the girl,
yes,
which is small, then a little bigger, then bigger, and bigger, and bigger.
Yes,
which is finally big.
I'll show you what he's doing, right? Because he's a dad with his 6 arms and a super dad. He can do anything. He can just do just about anything. Can you see all his arms, what all he's doing there? Yes? So he's feeding the baby, and he's brushing the baby, and he is feeding the baby, and he's holding a stinky diaper in one hand, and he's reading out to the baby, and he's also tying her, hair, ponytail, and ribbons around her ponytail, okay? But again, as we know better, there are things that her mommy has told her, which is something you'll see in the corners, but that's something you'll get only when you read the book later, okay? And look at all the things that daddy has said he's been doing with her. He's on a unicycle, single wheel, all right? So he's trying to balance, he's balancing the unicycle with one arm, and with the other arm he's balancing the little girl in his arm, because daddy can do anything for his little girl, right? So he's doing that, and a whole host of other things, all kinds of fun things that he's doing with his girl. And he says, daddy then tells me about all the little things and the big things that he and I will do. I gasp because of the kind of things that he's saying. Can you see what he wants to do now? He wants to be that super daddy, Superman, have his girl on his back, and they are flying to school, while the rest of the children are doing what?
Going in the bus.
Going in the bus, and Giggy is going, bye, I'll reach before you. Okay? And his list is so long, his list of things that he can do for me is so long that it could cover the whole wide world. It is true, that's what he says. Okay? I can do anything for you, my daddy says. Anything at all. Do you see? He's going to take his daughter up to the moon in a rocket for a picnic. Okay, they're having this picnic there up on the moon because he's daddy and he can do anything for his little girl. And then he says, because I am the greatest daddy in the world. So because I'm the greatest daddy, what can I do for you? Anything at all. Even if you ask for a dinosaur for your birthday, it'll come nicely wrapped in a gift packet for you. Is the girl happy? Yes? Giggy is so very happy. She isn't. Oh, you've read the book. You have read the book. I know you've read the book with your daddy. Yes, okay. So you see, and this is how his stories keep getting bigger, and wilder, and lovelier with time. All right? Now then she says, so as I asked you, I mean, do you think the girl, Giggy, at all believes whatever her daddy is saying? No. Not really. Because now you see, she says, oh my daddy, my funny daddy, who's ever going to believe your stories? Okay? They are like really crazy, really wild, but who's going to believe your stories? And then she's rolling on the floor, doing ha ha ha, my daddy, oh you're so funny. Okay? But there comes daddy, and he sees her laughing, and what happens to daddy then?
He gets angry.
Yeah, more than angry, you know what happens to him? Now because he suddenly realizes that Giggy is not believing any of his stories. Giggy is just laughing. Okay? What's happened to daddy?
The baby.
Daddy is sitting in one corner, looking so very sad and emotional, because he suddenly realizes that his daughter does not believe any of the stories that he's been telling her all this while. Okay? And Giggy, when she sees that, she notices her daddy's sadness, right? And then she slowly walks up to him and she hugs him, okay? And she says, come with me, daddy, I say. Now it is my turn to tell you a story. Okay? All this while you've been telling me your lovely stories, now it is my turn to tell you my story. And I tell him the story of my daddy, my real daddy. Okay? Now this is how Giggy actually sees and enjoys her father. Okay? For her, he's no super dad. He's just someone who's out there who's helping her steal that cookie from the cookie jar. Okay? By perching her up on his shoulder. For her, he's a real hero, because you see he's worn the same tutu, yes, and they're doing the little ballet steps together. Okay, that is what makes it special for her to be his daddy, this daddy's girl. Okay, and you are my cutest and funnest little daddy. So you see, he's reading out a book to her, like you do to your little girl, and she's on his back. Can you see? And she's tying all kinds of ponytails on his hair. All right. So this is for her, for Giggy. This is what is so special about her and her daddy. Right? This is the bond that she really cherishes and remembers all through. And all the actual fun things that they do. So they do go cycling, they do go on the jhula, they do go on the trampoline and everything. But they are now, I mean, it's a very real things that she's saying, and nothing fantastic. Okay? And she says, and this is the truest story ever, forever and ever. Because this is the story this is my father that I actually love. Okay? So. Okay, do we have time or it's over now?
I think that was such a beautiful story that I'm going to buy it not for my children, but for the daddy.
So. You tell me, whatever, because I could do whatever.
I mean, I can ask a short question and then maybe we can have another story if
right.
the time allows us.
You'll have to tell me time permitting, yeah? Okay.
So the question I wanted to know was that, you know, as parents, you have no choice but to become storytellers. You no matter how good or bad you are. But what is that one thing that one should keep in mind when creating an imaginative story for their kids?
I'll tell you, if you're sitting with a very little child, okay, very young child, even before children are able to grasp the words, maybe, they are always looking at your lips and they're looking at your eyes. Okay, so when you're doing it with very young children, make sure you're talking in a way which is animated, in a very nice, lovely, in a very positive sort of manner, because your child is actually picking up the nuances of the story from how you are speaking it. Because the child may not still understand the words, but how you emote is something that the child will always know. You get angry, the child knows you're angry, right? So if you are reading your story and you're expressing it like that, the child will pick up those emotions. If it's sadness, if it's joy, if it's happiness, whatever it is, emote. And remember that in that moment when you and your child are together, there is nobody else. So you have to shed all your inhibitions. Okay, it's a different matter when one is sitting here because you know there's an audience, right? But when you're doing it with your child, it's just you and her or him together. Okay, and in that moment, forget about whether you are sounding good, whether you're looking good, whether you're looking crazy or whatever. Just go all out and give all of yourself into that story, no matter what the age of the child is. Okay, so I hope you continue reading out to your child even when your child grows up, 10, 11, 15, 17. Even now my daughter, there are times when she's had a really tough day. So my daughter and I still pick up picture books together and we read, right? She'll just pick up her favorite books from when she was maybe 3 years old. And she'll come to me, she'll cuddle with me and she'll say, Mom, read out to me, please. Okay, so it's a very, very special bond that gets forged between parents and children. And there's one thing which I always say, for fathers especially, please do start reading books at a very young age because, most mothers still have that thing of bonding when they're breastfeeding their child. The father has no such special moment when, you're just holding the child very, very close to you. When you're reading out a book to your child, this is that moment. For fathers, this can be as precious as for, maybe breastfeeding is for the mother. Reading books, of course, is always precious for the mother, but yes, but it's equally precious for the father then.
Right. Awesome.
So that, and your eyes have to do the talking. Okay, so just let your emotions flow through your eyes then.
Should we have
Okay.
another story then?
Okay. How much time do I have? So I'll pace it according. About 7 minutes. So I'll tell you two because we are all, I think, mostly parents here. Yes, I mean, I see fewer children. So very quickly, what I'll do is I'll pick up these two. I've picked up these two other books where we are trying to show the different kinds of parent-child relationships, oblique bonding. Okay. So this was one, which is so very lovely. It's such an endearing sort of thing between a father and a daughter. And there are very few books that talk about a father-daughter bonding. This one is also sort of bordering on that, but in a very different way. So this is a story for slightly grown-up children. It's a picture book, yes, but it's about a little girl. She's a vampire girl who falls in love with the taste of garlic. Okay, and vampires are not supposed to go anywhere near garlic because if you consume garlic, or not even consume, if you go anywhere near garlic, it's said that a vampire will sort of burn and melt and squelch and sort of disappear. Okay. Now here is this vampire girl who once sat with a non-vampire friend of hers, and she ended up having some garlic sandwich that she was carrying from home, and she ended up loving it. She had never had garlic, and here she is loving it, just loving it, and she didn't know anything was wrong having, for her to not to have garlic at all. So once she gets back home is where the entire pandemonium begins. Right, because the parents, they just freak out, the vampire parents, and that's where her entire training begins, right? I mean, so that's where her schooling starts. You're a vampire girl, you cannot have this, you cannot have this, you have to stay away from this. And the girl is so much of a rationalist. She says, how do I believe anything of what you're saying? Okay, why should I just believe because you're asking me not to have it, right? I mean, I had garlic last night and I'm still alive. And I'm still healthy, so why should I believe it? And then the girl, I mean, she gets punished at each stage, but she is determined to prove to herself and to her parents that there's nothing wrong in her having garlic. Okay, but she's not a kind of child who will ever throw tantrums and all that, right? So she'll go all out and she'll do her scientific research, and you'll see her sitting with all kinds of books, big fat books. Okay, and she sits with Google. And she's, she's doing her empirical research on garlic and vampires and whatever she can find out online, offline, okay? She comes back and she realizes that there actually is no merit in this whole myth that has got propagated that vampires can't have garlic, okay? Do her parents listen to her? They don't. Okay, and why don't they listen to her? Because as parents, you'll say, we know best, we know what is best for you, we don't need your advice, we don't need your suggestions, blah, 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 blah. Okay, children love this story because it's a lot of, there's a lot of angst that comes out from within children, from in there. But anyway, so here is a girl who is still very, very stuck up on her stance. She's saying, I know she's not, but at each step, as I said, she's going to keep getting punished, and her punishment gets bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where she gets totally grounded and she's not allowed to go out at all. Okay, so all her siblings are out there playing with skulls. You see, they are playing skull ball out there in the big moon, full moon. She's not allowed. She's up on the thing somewhere. Oh, she's on that palace thing, castle. But something happens. You see, do you want to know the whole story? How she resolves it? Yeah? Okay, so very quickly I'll tell you. Her parents fall ill.
Because if you don't tell the end of such a story, that can be able to sleep.
So she falls ill. The parents fall ill, both of them. Could be COVID, I don't know, right? Together they fall ill. And then they say, and she's the eldest child in the family, right? And then they call her and they say, listen, we need your help. You will have to do some bit of cooking and all that because your mother and I just cannot do anything now. She says, okay, I'll do it. What she wanted to say was, I'll do it only if you let me have. Does she say it? No. Because there's a lot of grace in her and there's a lot of dignity in her, and she says, there is no way I'm going to do any kind of blackmailing with my parents, right? I'm going to win this war. I'm going to win this battle in a very, very nice, poetic manner. Okay? So she goes, and what does she do? She gets garlic. And when she's cooking, right, she puts a whole host of garlic in their soup, okay? And you've got to read this book to see what the kind of things that she's cooking. I'll just give you a tiny example. Oh gosh, I need my reading glasses now. It says leek and snot soup on one day, eyeball and maggot muffin, and so are the different recipes that follow, right? And she prepares it and then she gives it to her parents. And what do you think the parents do? Yeah, they relish it. The mother says, oh boy, I've never had anything this tasty ever, right? And this happens for 9 straight days. Okay, remember it's COVID and they need time, they need mild COVID and they need those 10 days to recover. And once they are fine, then she goes, and then the mother goes to the kitchen and the father goes, they go to the kitchen on the 10th day and they suddenly realize all these garlic peels are all over the place. And then they freak out and the mother is about to collapse again. Look at this girl, she had garlic, okay? And then she gets really mad, okay? Gets really mad and then she pulls this huge big mirror in front of them and she says, look at yourself. You've been having garlic for the last 8, 10, whatever days. You are hale and hearty, much better than what you were before. Can you now start believing what I've been saying all this while? Do the parents have a choice now? They don't, right? And then they say, okay, get us a big bowl of whatever, filled with garlic, and they get converted. Okay, it's a different matter that when their grandparents come, then they again have to hide into their room and then sort of, steal it from their parents, but, okay.
Amazing, that was very nice.
That's it.
A big round of applause, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Requesting Nishchint if you could do the honors.
For doing this, really. It was great fun fielding all those questions.
And I
Thank you.
would recommend highly Giggy and Daddy, Gaga and Mummy also. Everybody should read it. Yeah, daddies, mummies, everybody. Please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Richa. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this. Thank you. My pleasure.
And for the daddy?
Thank you.
One for the daddy?
Yes,
Oh,
one
thank you so
for
much.
sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, he can. Right. Thank you, dear parents. Thank you all lovely children. Yes.